On today's show, trade chatter has picked up across the National Hockey League as we are just 1 week away from the NHL draft. But in the meantime, the Senators continue to take care of some minor league signings.
And we've done it, Ross. Now I can say we're finishing our 2024 NHL Draft Prospect Profiles with numbers 1 and 2. Don't want to spoil who they are, Ross, so we'll leave it at that.
All that and more on today's edition of Locked On Sens.
I'm Jake Sanderson.
I'm Tim Stützle, and you're listening to the Locked On Senators podcast.
You're Locked On Senators, your daily podcast on the Ottawa Senators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome! You are locked on to the Ottawa Senators, the only daily podcast covering the Sens. On the outskirts of enemy territory, I'm Ross Levitan, alongside Brandon Piller up in the Blue Mountains. Today's episode is brought to you by Ultimate Hockey GM. Ever dreamed of becoming an NHL GM and managing your franchise? Well, now you can with Ultimate Hockey GM. It's completely free, and Locked On listeners get a 100% free boost to their franchise when using promo code LOCKEDONNHL in the game store. To download the game, just visit hockeygm.app or look it up in the App Store. Ultimate Hockey GM. Start your dynasty today. You can find us on social media. We're at Sens Central on Twitter. You can find the podcast wherever you get yours. We are free and available on YouTube as well, where a like, comment, and subscription go a long way to helping the show grow. Today is Friday, June 21st. Shout out to LOSP favorite Mark Mathot. Happy birthday to him. But Pilsy, will the Stanley Cup be handed out tonight?
Well, Ross, I can tell you there's a much better chance of it being handed out tonight than last night.
Is that as confidently as you're going to say it?
Yeah, because honestly, I thought Florida was going to close this one out. Last game at home, gentleman's sweep. They gave the Edmonton Oilers their 8-1 party, but Connor McDavid said he wanted to drag this team back to Edmonton, back to Alberta, and that's what they did. And when that barn gets rocking, it's one of the craziest atmospheres in the league in the playoffs, I would say. So they have a huge hometown advantage.
I think as someone who was more looking forward to the draft and trades and all the roster manipulation we see this time of year, I wasn't as dialed into games 2 and 3 in particular because first there's the pageantry of game 1, Stanley Cup Finals, 2 conferences meeting. But then I lost a bit of interest through games 2, 3, and even 4, although I look and saw the score and you're like, whoa, what's going on? So I locked in for the third period of that game. But now to see what McDavid's done, back-to-back 4-point games facing elimination, to see what historic moment could be on the horizon, I think it's encapsulating now hockey fans. It is just the 2-day break between each game is just killing a bit of the momentum. And we need that. I mean, I don't know what the real fix is. You're going a pretty long distance, and the alternate side is you could see it where it's like, wow, the hockey's not good. We should have allowed them an extra day. So there's a fine line somewhere in between there, but it's unfortunate that it's been 2 full days, but I'm excited for tonight's game. I think the Oilers, if they pull it out, I think we're going to see another elite performance from Connor McDavid. As mild of a take as that is, those two, their success obviously tied at the hip, but it would be just the ultimate legacy series if Connor McDavid can pull it off.
Yeah, big time. And Ross, I'm jumping on the side, and I might put my money where my mouth is on FanDuel here. I'm jumping on the side that Connor McDavid might win the Conn Smythe no matter what.
I think so.
Yeah, you think so? Okay. Nice.
Yeah, he's a top 5 playoff production in a single postseason, the most assists ever in a single postseason. Back-to-back 4-point games while facing elimination in the final. He's been all that and more. Like after game 1, Bobrovsky was getting a lot of the shine, right? Shutout in game 1. He'd been great in the playoffs, but now he's been pulled. He's been kind of mediocre in the last couple of games. I think it's Connor McDavid's, and it should be, whether he wins or lose. But it's going to be exciting to see. If you want to go watch the game tonight, GLEBE Central Pub, sound on, vibes on, at the GCP. Go check them out, 779 Bank Street. Pilsy, more. It feels like one a day. We're getting the RFA list for the Senators being cleaned up. This one, the most expensive AHL signing, Nikolas Matinpalo, is back. after coming over from Finland before last season, the 25-year-old now is signing a two-way contract. He'll make league minimum in the NHL, $200K in the AHL. Were you surprised to see that Matinpalo will be back?
A little bit, Ross. I wasn't surprised that the Senators organization would want to bring him back. I feel like he's a perfect number 8 defenseman, right? Like you're not going to bring him along with the team and just health bomb him the whole way through, because he's still young enough that there's some development to be had and you want him playing games. But also, he's a top pair AHL guy, and with Liga experience, he did really well for Belleville last season. And he's a right shot guy. Those are hard to find. I think it seemed like he fit in really nicely there. David Bell has got to be stoked about having a veteran top guy back with him. So I think it's a good signing. I honestly thought, though, Ross, that maybe Matinpalo wouldn't want to return. I thought maybe he'd want to go back to Liga or search for another European job. But obviously, he's comfortable here. He sees a path where he can play some more NHL games, or at least get more North American experience to bolster his resume. So I think this is great. And the Ottawa Senators, like I mentioned, I was hoping that they're keeping at least some more pro experienced guys on that back end. Because, Ross, we went through the cap friendly page for the the Belleville Senators defense core. A lot of youth that's going to be in that back end. So it's nice to have Matinpalo back in the mix.
Well said, Pillsy. Matinpalo had 14 points in 67 games last year in Belleville with plus 15 rating, and it's just that steady presence that you can play in the NHL if you have to. Had 4 games last year, and we'll look forward to seeing him back in camp in the fall. That leaves still a bit of a laundry list of guys to sign, but they are slowly chipping away. The other AHL guys, Jamieson, Rees, Wyatt Bongiovanni, Igor Sokolov up front, Mad Sogard, Amanda Lazy in goal. Those are the RFAs. And in terms of unrestricted free agents, you're looking at Josh Curry, Rourke Chartier, Matthew Highmore, Boko Imama, and Garrett Pilon, as well as Dylan Hetherington on the back end. So still some work to do for Steve Staios, Ryan Bonus and company, but another good one to chip off here, getting Matinpalo under contract. I already asked you earlier this week kind of who you'd want to see next off this list. With Parker Kelly, you went with Mad Sogard, but to me, it's time to turn our attention here, Stevie, to how we're going to make the NHL team better.
Yeah, I would agree with you there, Ross. Unfortunately, my true answer probably would have been Igor Sokolov, RFA with Arbrights. Get that done. Get him back in the franchise. He's a huge piece of Belleville Senators history, but it doesn't seem that that's likely. Probably going to part ways with Igor. Unfortunately, a fan favorite, obviously a friend of the show, so we hate to see that, but it doesn't seem like there's any kind of chatter going on there. To change my answer from Sogard, I still believe they should get Sogard figured out, but Ross, who in your mind is going to be the top offensive star in Belleville next season? Or no, let me word this differently. The top rising offensive star in Belleville.
Well, you knew I was going to go with our guy, the disher, Stephen Halliday.
Yes, that's why I changed it.
Wyatt Bongiovanni's been just solid. He's been nothing but elite since coming over there right before the deadline.
That's what I'm leading up to, Ross. I didn't want you to say Crooker, so I changed it to Rising Star, and it's Halliday. I knew you'd get that. And Halliday loves playing with Bongiovanni. From talking to him, from watching those two play together, he really impressed when he came over from the Manitoba Moose. I would love to get Wyatt Bongiovanni back in the mix with the Belleville Senators next season.
8 goals in 14 regular season games since coming over to the B-Sens last year. And Bongiovanni's still 24 years old. He'll be 25 this summer. So he is getting to that point where he's almost like the baseball quadruple A player. Really good in the AHL. Not elite enough to get into the NHL, the best league in the world. But I'd love to see him back, man. He's even got those leadership qualities. Captain of Quinnipiac back a couple of years ago. So, no, I think that would be a shrewd re-signing. Jamieson Rees is a more questionable one. They gave up a 6th-round pick to bring him over, and then it's like they didn't really get much opportunity in the playoffs. So we'll see what happens with the AHL roster. Yesterday was a big NHL trade rumor day. We covered that on Locked On Sens. You can go check that out. I'll put the link in this description as well. But Pilsy, we've made it. You teed it up at the start of the show. That is 80 draft profiles done in 39 days, and of course weekends excluded. So that's a grind. We joke, but it's a serious thing that this is likely more studying than we've ever done throughout our schooling journey.
Oh, absolutely. I think the only more preparation and research we've done is for the 2020 draft, because we literally had nothing else to do, and the draft was getting pushed, and the Sens had 1 million draft picks. So I'll maintain the 2020 draft is the thing I've studied for most in my entire life. But this draft is definitely second place because we put a lot of work into this. There's a lot of resources we've used, a lot of time we've used, a lot of content we've produced, and we're going to the draft boots on the ground. So fired up, to say the least.
Tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. Eastern, our third annual complete first round. Be a friend, tell a friend. Let's get the numbers up, and make sure to thank all of our great guests that we have on the show from hockeyprospect.com, The Athletic, Elite Prospects, ESPN, and McKean's Hockey. It will be exclusively on YouTube at 10 a.m. I'm going to premiere it, Pilsy, so it is going to run all day long. It's going to be looking about 6 hours, but we will have timestamps in there so you can jump around once the video is posted. Okay, draft profiles. No spoilers, but not the order of our mock draft tomorrow. 1-2. But they are on our rankings. That's next. You're listening to Locked On Senators, your team every day.
Today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at Ultimate Hockey GM. I mean, Sens fans, this game is made for you. If you feel like you know the right moves to turn this team around, if you've dreamed of becoming an NHL GM, you can do that with Ultimate Hockey GM, the mobile game. Do you think you could run the Sens better than steady Stevie Stamkos? Well, your dream can come true, and this game is most definitely for you. You manage every aspect of your team. You play through the seasons, hopefully lead it to glory, but to do that, you got to hire the right coaches, trade for the right players, draft the right players, navigate through free agency, all in a challenging and realistic game world. As Sens fans, you know there's no off-season. GMs are constantly making moves at every point of the year to improve their team, and that's why I think you're going to love this game. Ultimate Hockey GM is completely free and playable offline, so you can play on the go as you want and when you want to. Hey, by the way, Locked On Network listeners, you guys are going to get 100% free boost to your franchise when you use promo code LOCKEDONNHL in the game store. So make sure to check it out. Download the game at hockeygm.app or look it up in the app stores. Ultimate Hockey GM. Start your dynasty today.
All right, a reminder, you can find the show on Twitter at Sens Central. Please subscribe everywhere you get your podcast. You can leave a 5-star review on Apple, Spotify. Oh, yeah, and subscribe on YouTube. The road to 8,000 continues, and we're hoping to get that by the draft. All right, coming in at number 2 on our Locked On Senators NHL Draft Rankings. Feels like there's one of these every year. A highly skilled Russian who we aren't sure when is going to come to North America, but when Ivan Demidov does, he's all but certainly going to take the league by storm.
Yeah, Ivan Demidov is such an exciting prospect, Ross, and let's just do this right off the top. The Demidov Matvei Michkov comparisons are you can see why they're being made, but Ross, maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong, but every single person I've read, heard, and spoken to has Demidov even ahead of where Matvei Michkov would have been.
And I think beyond the talent discrepancy, of which there is one, you also have the aspect that Demidov wants to get to North America as soon as possible.
He's already here.
He's already here at the Gold Star camp ahead of the draft in Fort Lauderdale, where he measured in above 6 feet. So I've actually got to change that because in my graphic card I was about to pull up, he is listed at 5'11". So now he's almost 6'1", Pilsy. I
Huge.
know it's just an inch, but between that and the on ice talent that he's been showing at this camp, teams are excited about him. Now, everybody lies around this time of year, but it does feel like more and more steam is picking up that Ivan Demidov will be a top 3 pick in this draft, maybe even as high as top 2, depending on if Chicago wants to take a defenseman or if they want the 6-foot, 181-pound right winger, left shot, who in 30 games in the MHL, the Russian Junior League with SKA St. Petersburg, had 2 points in every single game on average.
Yeah, that's pretty good. 23 goals, 37 assists, a plus 47. I mean, he just dominated the MHL. It's a real head scratcher why he only played 4 KHL games now. Overseas, the politics in hockey is something that we are not fully privy to understanding. So maybe there is some sort of hockey political thing that caused him to not be able to rise. Because Ross, in my opinion, he showed he was too good for the MHL, not this season, but the season before. In 41 MHL games before, he had 19 goals, 43 assists, good for 62 points. And he had 13 points in 10 MHL playoff games. So clearly it seemed like he already dominated that league, but a couple of injuries. Scott Wheeler mentioned that he missed a month and a half with an injured knee, and he also had a lower body injury before his team won the championship. So he did miss some time, and maybe that's why he wasn't able to build up enough steam to go to the KHL. But in the MHL playoffs, before he had that lower body injury, in 17 playoff games, he had 11 goals and 17 assists, 28 points in 17 games. I mean, all you need to do is look at the stats and watch a couple minutes of film on him, and you can tell Demidov just dominated the MHL.
His highest ranked attributes are the way he handles the puck, the way he makes plays. His vision is elite. He does that unique 10-2 skating style where he puts his heels together and can almost glide around and through checks. It's an impressive skill that he's mastered. And when he turns up the pace, almost no defenseman in the MHL highlight reels that I'm watching. Again, it is a lower level of competition that he's dominated for a long period of time, but it is remarkable to see the highlights and the way he's able to manipulate in the offensive zone. Elite Prospects ranked him with the best hands in the draft, the best vision in the draft, the best offensive forward in the draft, the highest ceiling in the draft, the second best transition forward, and the third highest floor. We're talking about a guy who, if he was playing with the Moose Jaw Warriors for the last 2 years, he could be very well competing with Macklin Celebrini for the first overall pick. I think if you're just looking at the on-ice talent, there's less separation than there is in terms of the odds of him going first overall. It's not going to happen. NHL teams value safe centermen who are elite. I don't want to take away from Celebrini because he is an elite talent. We'll get to him later in our draft profile of Macklin Celebrini. But Demidov has that offensive excitement that is going to be a game breaker as early as his rookie year.
Yeah, and especially the Celebrini San Jose connection, that just makes it a slam dunk. But I agree with you. I think the gap of talent between Demidov and Celebrini isn't as far as people think, just because Celebrini has been consensus number one all over the board. I feel like people think the gap is enormous, but in my opinion, it might not be.
Do you think there is at least one team in the NHL, and any team can just make their list at the top, they know they don't have the first overall pick?
Yeah.
But to a man, if you asked the head scout of all 32 teams, who do you have first overall? Do you think there's at least one team that has Demidov at number one?
Well, now that they've seen that he's 6 feet tall, probably all 32 teams. No,
They all swipe right.
Yeah, they're all swiping right on that profile. I don't know. I don't know, Ross. I would be interested to see if we would ever learn that. But
let's ask anyone we see in Vegas that has a team logo on. Who's your first overall pick?
Yeah, we'll figure that out for you, man. On the street
people.
Style. I don't think so, though. And the fact that Celebrini is a complete centerman, I think that changes a lot too. So maybe there's one. Actually, no, let me change my answer. There's one team. I don't know which one it is, but there's one team that has Demidov first.
So what's a team getting when they add Ivan Demidov to their system?
Oh boy. They are getting an elite offensive player. I mean, the way David St. Louis in his video, I know I always reference him, but it's because his videos are great breakdowns. What he was doing is, Ross, he would start the video and then pause it when Demidov is stopped and with his head up with the puck in the neutral zone, and he'll pause and he'll say, "What play do you think Demidov's going to do here?" And it's almost like if you watch Dora the Explorer back in the day, she like asks the audience and then waits and sits there. It's kind of like that. So I was brought back to that. But you sit there and you're like, okay, he's probably going to slide it over to the winger across the slot because that guy's open for a nice pass and a one-timer that'll probably be a really good chance. And then he allows the pause to go, and then he hits play, and Demidov goes right at the defender, sauces it over the defender's stick to himself, jumps over the defender's stick, takes it, and goes for a backhand deke. And you're like, that's the last possible thing I would have thought a player would do in that situation. Like, there's 4 other options I would have done, and Demidov does a 5th option that is not available to the normal human brain. And David St. Louis shows multiple clips of him doing that. And he's just so creative and deceptive that you're not ever going to be able to figure out what he's going to do with the puck, Ross.
I just wish we were able to see him at an international competition or a best on best of some sort. You see the highlight reel and it's like pros versus Joes. I just wish we could have seen what it would be like against his own peer group, playing against Team USA and trying to come and beat EJ Emery off the rush. Like, how would he change his game to play and beat the best competition? Like, I get that he has 1 more year left, and if he does go back to Russia, it's not the worst thing. He'll still be an elite talent when he comes over.
Which he probably will, Ross. I think it's going to be hard to get out of that contract.
Yeah, but you just see the potential, and I hope, as a hockey fan, that he goes to Chicago, because what he and Connor Bedard could put up, it would be better than Kane and Taves if it's Bedard and Demidov reaching their potential.
Yeah, definitely.
That's my hope. And then I look too, and it's like, man, he'd look good with Mason McTavish, Leo Carlson in Anaheim. Like, the teams that are 2, 3, 4 are all set with a centerman that they've just drafted high. Adam Fantilli for the Columbus Blue Jackets. Like, they could all take the winger. I just know that defensemen and centermen are always a premium at the draft, but this is the type of winger that's going to make that centerman reach their potential or even higher because of how good he is and how creative he is from the wing. So I'm rooting for him to go to Chicago at 2. And I don't think I'll be okay if he goes to Montreal at 5.
Yeah, I would be
to all the
shocked.
Habs fans out there, this would be the best pick if he gets to 5. You would win the draft.
Win the draft?
They've got an extra pick in the first round and this.
Yeah, it would be pretty. Yeah, if they get Demidov, that's absolutely massive.
He can't go past 3 teams who have all just drafted big-time centermen.
There's no way. Yeah, there's really no way. Like, Ross, I put it in my notes as a 2.5% chance he slides to 7th overall. Like, it's probably not going to happen. But I'm telling you, there is a chance. But yeah, there's just so many things you're going to like about him. I think he's going to be a lethal offensive weapon, especially on the power play, Ross. Like, give this guy a little more time and space in the offensive zone, and teams are going to look silly trying to defend him.
Well, I like elite prospects shades of. It's Kirill Kaprizov, right? Like, we watched him manipulating the offensive zone, the game we saw in Minnesota this year. Like, he is an elite talent. I don't think you're going to have to wait as long either as they did for Kirill Kaprizov. So how many stars, Billsy, for Ivan Demidov in that 2.5% chance that he's available?
I got him at 5 stars, Ross.
Okay, still 5-star guy.
Hey, there's a chance. There's a chance he could slide. I'm mostly joking here, but this is the type of player, Ross. Like, who cares about the Russian factor? Who cares about a couple knee or a couple lower body injuries. Who cares that for whatever reason he didn't play much in the KHL? Don't care about any off-ice issues. When this guy has the puck on his stick, he is one of the most electric players in hockey. You have to take him if you have a chance. And if your team just drafted him, get your Demidov jerseys already printed. And if you're a team that's watching this and you passed on him and chose a different player, I feel sorry for you, because there's not many players that I would feel comfortable taking over Demidov.
He's unbelievable, and he comes in at number 2 on our Locked On Senators NHL Draft rankings with an average of 3.0, and here are the breakdowns from our scouts here at LOSP. Bob McKenzie and Craig Button both have him at number 2 on their TSN boards. McKean's and Elite Prospects and Scott Wheeler of The Athletic all have him at number 2. Chris Peters has him at number 3, and Corey Pronman has Ivan Demidov 8th on his list. Time will tell, but Ivan Demidov, a true competitor to get into number 2 to Chicago at this year's NHL Draft. For more draft profiles, go check us out on YouTube, Locked On Senators. All right, on the other side, we've made it to the top of the mountain. The no doubt first overall pick in this upcoming draft, Macklin Celebrini's draft profile, is next. You're listening to Locked On Senators, your team every day.
Today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience, that's what brings home the winning trophy, and it's also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and even level it up to peak performance. You want superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more? They've got you covered. Whether you like speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has what you need. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay's guaranteed fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time, or you get your money back. It's that simple. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not burning cash. With all the parts you need, but at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that W. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay guaranteed fit only available to U.S. customers. Check it out today, guys. eBay Motors.
All right, a reminder, you can follow the show on Twitter at Sens Central. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube, where our NHL Draft mock will go live at 10 a.m. tomorrow morning, Saturday, June 22nd. As right now, we are 1 week away from the NHL Draft. Follow us on Twitter at Sens Central for boots on the ground content from Las Vegas. We'll also post that on our YouTube page, Locked On Senators, where the road to 8,000 continues. All right, coming in at number 1, the top player of the 2024 NHL Draft. It's centerman Macklin Celebrini, the Hobey Baker winner with the Boston University Terriers.
Yeah, Ross, Macklin Celebrini is the undisputed first overall pick. There's not even any clickbaity guys that are trying to bring attention to their draft rankings by having him as number 2. He's the top guy, and for a good reason, Ross. There's so much to like about him. Do we have time for me to go through his EP awards?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, I'll take a deep breath.
We'll save the time on going through each one of our scouts, because I can just say everybody has him first overall.
Good. See, that's how you manage podcast time. That's why we've got it figured out here. So EP has awarded him first, the best in all these categories: straight line skater, highest floor, transition forward, and two-way forward. He is the second best shots, hand, vision, highest ceiling, and offensive forward, and the third best motor. So, there's not a lot of holes here when you're looking at a guy like Macklin Celebrini. Honestly, Ross, this is probably the prospect I've researched the least, because we've heard all about it. We all watch the World Juniors. We all know he's going number 1 to the San Jose Sharks. Mike Greer's not even kind of flirting around with it or being coy about it. Everyone knows that's what's happening. So
I appreciate that about him, by the way.
So do I. Yeah, like quit the charades.
Your drafting Celebrini was the lottery. From that moment forward,
yeah,
you should be able to make the first overall pick at the lottery.
Yeah, honestly, I like that idea.
They brought him to the studio, like he was there. They're like putting him around like a show pony. They're like, this is him, but don't say it. We gotta wait till the draft, dude. He's there. Like, just give him the jersey.
Honestly, Ross, that gave me a new idea. The draft should go 1 pick a day for the whole offseason.
That would be wild.
But as we mentioned, like Macklin Celebrini, there's so much to like. But Ross, reading EP's draft guide, where they really solidified him at the top, we know the offensive game is there, right? We know he's a centerman that's able to put up points. I mean, when you have 32 goals and 32 assists, clearly you're a dual threat that can score and shoot when you have the exact same amount of goals as assists. But where he really elevated his game for EP was his defensive game, the commitment to playing well on defense. He back checks hard. He's engaged defensively. He's not cheating offensively. He's the kind of guy, David St. Louis showed clips of him. Lane Hudson is in his own end in the corner with 2 attackers on him. Macklin Celebrini's coming in for help. He's coming in to be an extra option for Lane Hudson, or just to tie up one of those 2 attackers. He's able to read the game in a full 200-foot scale, and he does it really well. This is a centerman that every single team covets. Ross, even if you already have a number 1 centerman, you want Macklin Celebrini because he's more than likely better than your number 1 centerman right now.
You know how we've been calling a lot of these prospects jack of all trades? I want to call Macklin a Sydney of all trades, because he's not quite Crosby, but he certainly has a shadow of his game with the heavy down low plays, good at leaning off guys, and then all of a sudden, boom, it's a pass right through the slot on the tape. Like, for me, most impressively was his vision and finding his teammates in the offensive zone in spots where they then just have to make one move and it's like a tap in. It's almost like Macklin is scoring off of his teammates, with all due respect, but he hasn't just come onto the scene in the last 2 years. Macklin Celebrini was for years touted as the top player in this draft class, and for good reason, going back to his days with Shattuck St. Mary. Hey, and know anybody else who went to Shattuck St. Mary's? Oh, Sidney Crosby.
Okay, right. You want me to run through the entire list of players that have gone through Shattuck St. Mary's?
We'd be here for a while. But then he took an unconventional route, went and played in the USHL for a year, then went to Boston University. Pillsy, we also have to get this across early enough. Even though he's an NCAA guy, you're talking about Canada's own 8 points in 5 games at the World Juniors. He's a Vancouver guy, and I like the personality that he was showing at the playoffs. Did you see that? He was getting involved in some "Go Canucks, Go" chants at the Canucks Oilers second round series. He said, "I just had to get one last one out of my system before he's drafted by a divisional rival." But not only is Macklin a Vancouver guy, but he moved with his family at a young age to San Jose of all places, because his dad got a job with the Golden State Warriors in like the Matty Nickel role, like the health and performance role with them. So he's grown up around great athletes. He's seen greatness firsthand with Steph Curry and all the championships the Warriors have got. His dad, Rick Celebrini, has been a part of that whole journey there. He's a close family friend with Steve Nash. Like, he's in very high air with who his family is around, and I think that kind of goes into his personality. He's obviously very driven, very motivated. He's a guy who, I mean, not as soon as the Olympics, it's the hardest team to make ever, but I think the following, like if we're looking at a 2028 Olympics for Team Canada, this is the type of player, I think, with his smarts, that as a 23, 24-year-old, once he catches his stride, we're going to be talking about him as one of the best centermen in the National Hockey League.
Wait, isn't the Winter Olympics 2026?
Don't know. I think you're wrong.
Oh, dang.
No, you've been right before.
Not very often. I've been wrong more than I've been right.
Winter Olympics are being held. Oh, the first one was in 1924 in Chamonix.
Okay, so let's just go 4 years from then. What was the year?
2026. You're right. Is the Olympics.
Man.
So, hey, look out for Macklin Celebrini on the 2030 men's Olympic roster.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm not sure if he's cracking the 2026 one, but
No.
you can definitely see him in 2030. So get your tickets now at game time. But yes, Celebrini, Ross, like, I don't even have much more to say about him. He's so good. He's a highlight reel machine. I believe, Ross, I'm just finding it to double check. Yeah, this says it right here. Industry chatter from EP's draft guide. One NHL executive just said, "F, he's amazing, isn't he?" Like that's it right there. Like, he's just amazing, isn't he?
And not only is he amazing the way he plays, but he makes his teammates better. And let's look at it from the Sharks perspective. Obviously, JD Young over at Locked On Sharks has been doing deep dives on Macklin Celebrini. Probably knows his favorite food, what he likes to do on his off days, everything. And I mean, getting the first overall pick, what a dream that would be. You look at what the Sharks have, and they've drafted a lot of forwards recently, but they've drafted in particular Will Smith and William Eklund, who very well could be centermen at the end of the day, but they also have already moved William Eklund over to the wing. And it's like, hey, is Will Smith going to be best used on the wing as well? To get a surefire top centerman, I think it just gives them more flexibility, and it takes pressure off of those two guys to be a first line centerman in the NHL. Because I think Celebrini is kind of computed and just built to be that guy. And if he turns pro right away, yeah, it might be a year or two of growing pains like we saw with Bedard, where they'll take over the odd game, but it's still a learning process. But that might be even more important 2-3 years down the road, because then he'll get through that and be ready to go when the Sharks are ready to start competing. If you're Mike Greer and the San Jose Sharks, are you pushing him to leave school? Are you leaving it completely up to him? Or would you even encourage him going back for his sophomore year?
I'll go with option B there, Ross. I just leave it completely up to him. Like, this is your franchise cornerstone player. This might be the greatest San Jose Shark ever if things pan out, right? I mean, obviously, no disrespect to Patrick Marleau, Joe Thornton. That's probably
Joe Pavelski, or has time?
No, yeah, I'll throw Joe Pavelski in there. Yeah, so
Danny Heatley, Jonathan Chichu, Milan McCulloch, Dan Boyle, a good Ottawa boy, Dan Boyle.
Yeah, no disrespect to all of those guys, Ross, and any other San Jose Shark that has ever played there.
Brian Boucher.
I do think he's going to be the cream of the crop. You just say, Macklin, you tell us what you want, and we'll cater to you, we'll appease to you. But in my opinion, Ross, I think he should go back to school. This San Jose Sharks team is nowhere close to being ready. Now, obviously, there's a huge offseason, and whether or not they add him or not will affect how Mike Greer attacks the offseason here. But I even think Will Smith is probably like, damn, I kind of wish I hadn't declared I'm going to the NHL. I should have stayed back in college. Because there's no harm in going back to college, but there can be harm going to the NHL too quickly. Like, what is the point if you're the San Jose Sharks of rushing this guy other than trying to get some butts in seats and sell jerseys? Like, just let him enjoy college. He's having a good time there. Let him continue to develop. Try to build up your team even more. Have another year where you're the Sharks and you finish 32nd place and you draft another amazing player. Like, I just think that makes more sense to me.
Yeah, I like that thought process. Mike Greer obviously would have a very strong relationship. He's a former Boston University Terrier as well, and the head coach there, also former NHLer, Jay Pandolfo, is the head coach of the Terriers. So I don't hate that idea. Obviously, with Will Smith, he's a year removed, so he's already kind of gone back for that extra year. But those two together, I think, could be a great duo in San Jose. And then for them having the 14th overall pick and to be able to get a defenseman to kind of round that out, if they do go with a defenseman there.
Jan Solberg.
Yeah, Solberg, Jiricek. I would even like EJ Emery there, 14. It might be a little high, but you get like that proper shutdown guy. You already have all these offensive talents. So they could go a million different directions. And I'm just jealous The Ottawa Senators haven't had a first overall pick since what? Chris Phillips?
Gotta be.
Yeah. We missed out, Pilsy, when we were like 2, 3, 4 years old. The Sens drafted first overall all the time.
We would have done so many good draft prospect profiles for that.
I don't think that we would have had the same ability to look them up.
No.
The Ottawa Senators' last first overall pick was correct. Chris Phillips, 96. 95, they drafted Brian Berard, then traded him.
Yep.
And then 93, Alexandre Daigle. Sens have had good drafts outside of first overall in the top 5, though. Yashin, Spezza, Bonk, Stützle, Kachuk, and Sanderson.
Love it.
That'll do. And coming in at number 1, it's Macklin Celebrini with an average of 1.0 for all 80 of our NHL draft profiles. Go check us out on YouTube, Locked On Senators. Whew.
Wow.
Oh, all right. Pilsy, that was a mouthful.
I'm a little sad, Ross. I love doing the prospect profiles. Honestly, one of my favorite parts, Ross, is, and maybe if you're feeling like it, you can let the people in on this, show them our calendar. I love just, Ross and I spend hours in like May plotting and doing the math. Okay, what prospects are we doing each day for like 2 months? I know every day what I'm doing for the pod, and it's nice to have that organization and that routine. Yeah, here you go. Insider look here. So we knew what we were doing pretty much every day, and it was nice to just have that research and learn about these players, because I'm not like you, Ross, where throughout the year I'm keeping tabs on guys. I'm not thinking about the draft until I have to zero in on it, and then I dive right in. So it's really exciting every day to take a look at new players here.
And we hope that it gives you a little bit more insight on draft night next Friday night. It's always the best night of the year, and obviously it's going to change after this season with the NHL draft decentralizing, but we're going to make the most of this swan song, and really looking forward to being boots on the ground and being able to bring you in close to the action. So, Pilsy, any final thoughts on today's show? If you don't have any, I do.
Okay, I'll throw it to you then, because as you know, even though you ask me for final thoughts every day, I'm never prepared for it. So if you've got one in the holster, let's see it.
Linus Ullmark, and it just feels like where there's smoke, there's fire, and this is a full forest just illuminated with Ottawa Senators Linus Ullmark discussion. Now, what the cost is, nobody knows, but what I do know from multiple sources telling the streets, along with Dave Pagnotta, and I don't think that the conversation would still be ongoing if Ullmark wasn't going to waive for Ottawa. Just feels like it's been too long now. Why would they be back in the mix after they tried to get him at the deadline? I just think that he would have made a decision on that by now. Maybe I'm wrong, but it sounds like he would come to Ottawa, but he would not waive to go to Toronto. So I'd just like to say I'm officially even more so on the Linus Ullmark bandwagon.
Yeah, that's a smart move, smart man there. And Swedes love Ottawa. Like it's no secret. So hopefully, Ross, he's open enough to coming to Ottawa that he already wants an extension in place so he can feel like he's got stability. That would be great. We're excited to have him. And I know that...
like it's a done deal.
Well, yeah.
We're excited to have him.
True or false? Ottawa Senators fans are excited to have Linus Ullmark.
They would be excited.
No, they already are excited. Whether he comes or not, the excitement is here, Ross. Whether the deal is done or not. So I'm not going back on that statement.
Oh man,
I know there's a section of people that have commented on our videos and stuff, being like, "You guys, Ullmark would not have been a Vezina winner on Ottawa. He's so much better on Boston." Blah. We get that.
Hey.
Oh, did it just happen?
No, Jamieson Rees is the RFA being taken care of today.
Wow. I did not see that coming. I didn't think that was going to work out. Okay, interesting.
$85K in the AHL. So that's like a show me 1 year, third, fourth line. So I like it, man. This is a guy who just quickly, and I do want your take. Yeah. Breaking news. Locked On Senators. Jamieson Rees is back. 1 year, 2-way contract.
Okay.
He was brought over midway through last season, but something he said right when he was brought over is that he hasn't had any stability since turning pro because Carolina didn't have a direct affiliate. He was kind of bouncing all over the place. So, hey, another year, you need depth in the AHL, and he has shown some offensive pop. When he got picked up for that 6th round pick, I think Scott Wheeler said he would have been like a top 12 prospect in the Sens system. So welcome back, Jamieson Rees. Here we go.
All right, cool. We're excited to have Jamieson Rees.
The quote from Steve Stais: Jamieson is a hardworking player with a proven track record of success. He's gritty, is capable of playing all forward positions, and someone we think will benefit from greater opportunity. Last year, Rees appeared in 51 games during his 4th professional season. He's split playing time between Springfield, Charlotte, and Belleville. With B-Sens, he had 8 assists and 20 penalty minutes.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see when you have a guy with that talent, when you give him some stability and show him, hey, we believe in your potential. Hopefully he can blossom here, Ross.
Former 2nd round pick. So 2019, good bet for a guy who has not reached his potential yet, but welcome back to the organization. Jamieson Rees, 1 year, league minimum contract, making $85K in the AHL on a 2-way contract. I don't have it in front of me whether or not he needs waivers next year. I don't think we really have to worry about that.
Probably not.
James, what were you saying? You're about Ullmark?
I'll keep it short. Basically, what I was saying is
he does need waivers, by the way.
Okay. We understand that Ullmark was on a good team, and that's why he did well. But, Ross, you pointed out the Sabres stats, which I feel like is fair. And also, we're looking for an upgrade on Korpisalo. I don't care what stats or what spin zone you want. Ullmark is an upgrade on Korpisalo. So that's all I wanted to say is let's not get lost in all these hypotheticals and, well, if he played here, he wouldn't be this good, blah, blah. No, we need an upgrade in goal, and that would be a major upgrade in goal.
Oh, it would
I rest my case.
Beyond a major upgrade in goal, and rumors, I'm sure, will continue to swirl around the Ottawa Senators over the course of the next 7 days. In 6 days, we will be in Vegas, so we'll have our ear to the streets and make sure that we're getting you all the latest here on Locked On Senators. Pilsy, who's coming up on Monday's show?
Are we spoiling it?
Is it a spoil? I mean, it's the next time we're going to talk to the people outside of our mock draft.
Outside of the 6 hours of content we're putting out, this is the next event.
You want to tease it? Do you want to give a hint?
No.
Okay. Join us Monday.
Yeah.
And then you'll know who our guest is. For today, we say goodbye. Thanks so much for watching, listening, engaging with the show. For Brandon Piller, I'm Ross Levitan. This has been another edition of the Locked On Senators podcast. Your team every day.